Hey, welcome to the show
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Loving Beyond the I Do.
with your hosts, Jason and Tina Marie.
That's me. So today we have a lovely guest with us, Carlotta Cole. Carlotta, say hello to the people.
Hello.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. How many times you've been married, if you're married, and what's your status?
I want to thank you for inviting me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
And
And thank you
I've
for
been
saying
married.
yes.
Yes.
Okay. Presently, I am not married. Yes, I've been married 3 times. The first time I married straight out of high school. I had a boyfriend. Well, he wasn't my boyfriend, he was my friend in high school. And a girl in my class had asked, is that your boyfriend? Thomas, is he your boyfriend? I said, no, he's not my boyfriend. We're just friends. She said, would you tell him I like him? And so I said, okay. So I told him. And he said, well, did you tell her that I like you? And so I said, I didn't know that. I really thought we were just friends. We're in high school. That's how it started. He was in the boys group at the school, and I was in the girls group. So that gave us that common denominator to want to be friends.
Okay, you were both entertainers,
Yeah,
right?
we were both entertainers.
How did it go on from there? What happened from there?
We had a good time. He was my best friend. In high school, I really didn't have that many girlfriends. And the only girls I really dealt with were the girls in the singing group. We were doing a lot of sessions and I was traveling. Even in high school, that's what summer we went to the Apollo Theater. He was very interested in that because he wanted to be an entertainer himself, but I was more professional than he was. We would have lunch together every day on the green. He would buy me things like the yearbook and bought me a beautiful dress from Macy, not Macy, but May Company. We had May Company in LA. But anyway, we had a real good time. We were like best friends. We would walk in the rain, play basketball. We had a real good time. And I had said to him while we were going together, I never forget this. I had said to him, if you ever, because we were such good friends, I said, if you ever feel like you want to be with another girl, let me know. I felt we were just that good of friends. Don't play around on me. Just let me know. He said, okay, but we were friends then, right?
Uh-huh.
So after we got married and started having children, and he
And
was
how many children
traveling.
did you have?
We had 3. He and I
Okay.
had 3. He started traveling as well because he sang with a lot of popular groups as well after we got out of high school. He was really a handsome guy. He looked like the guy in The Heat of the Night. I forgot his name, Roland or whatever. He was a real handsome guy. But anyway, he did start messing around. Girls would call in the house. But and writing him letters. So,
But you all were still pretty young, though, right?
we were still young.
Yeah, and I think that was part of it,
It
just
was.
the exposure and not realizing coming from out of high school and then having this attention, it was just something different for him.
Yes. And he also tells me now, because he's still living, very sick right now, but he had told me years ago, though, he said, if I would have known better, I would have done better. He said, my father did it, my brother did it. All of them had that extramarital affair. So it was a norm.
And
You
you
know,
know what? It's funny that you say that because that's one of the things that we talk about on the podcast is how our past really dictates our future, how
Yeah.
it, impacts us and helps us make decisions that we're making now, or we don't understand why we do what we do. And that it
exactly.
actually, right, even in the book, right, how it
Mhm.
ties into our past, what we're doing currently.
Right.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
And it's almost to be expected from a male's perspective. I mean, it's like
Mhm.
you're not going to have just one woman. Yeah, you have a wife, but you're always going to have these extra relationships on the side. And it's
Right.
just like how we were kind of raised, and it was kind of like not really expressed to us, but it was kind of understood.
Right. Right. He let me know now that was his problem. And after that, I decided, no, I'm not going to go for this. So he and I went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. He even messed with one of my good friends, which was godmother to my daughter.
Mm.
But we broke up for a week and then he came back. But we kept going back and forth, breaking up,
Hmm.
going back together. So I learned that lesson there that I would
Right.
okay.
not keep going back. If a person is going to change, it's not going to take them overnight to change.
Right.
Right.
It's going to take them some time to change. I speak to so many women. Oh, last week he was beating me. Thank God I never had a man to beat on me. But last week he was beating me. But this week he loves me and he's going to do better. And I say, it doesn't take the person 1 week to change,
Nope.
because they do come back. I'm talking about people that are abusive guys. They do come back, oh, I love you, I'm so sorry. But anyway, I learned that lesson only by his actions, that he had not changed. Because every time I would go back, here come another female.
When you went back together, was it his word that he was going to change, or you just took him for his word, or you were just hoping that he would change? Like what?
I took him
Between the
for his word.
conversation.
Well,
Okay.
it wasn't a norm that we would say, you're going to mess around. It wasn't a norm like that.
No. I mean more in terms of, so he messed around, you caught him, and then you all had a conversation. He said, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. That's kind of
Exactly.
okay. And then you just said, okay.
Yeah,
But he
exactly.
basically said that because he got caught.
And like I said, he was very popular. So we went back together. We broke up. We went back together. So I said, in my future, I will not do this. If a person is abusing me in some type of way, or whomever he is, that's who he is. If he's going to really change, I always say this, they got to have this born again experience for them to change. If they're going to change, they're going to change on their own because they want to change.
Absolutely.
And what's so ironic, Jason, about men, when you talk about that, about the messing around, what's so ironic, when I left him, he cried like a baby.
They all do, right?
He cried like a baby.
I think it's ego, though. I think it's ego. You want to mess around, but
and
we
have
still
someone at home.
right. You don't want to be the person who gets left. You want to be the person who leaves.
Right.
So
It's fine when you're doing all the dirt.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that could be that. I'm sure that's a lot to do with it. And I think in a marriage, that's one of the things we have to drop is that ego. I have this saying, it doesn't matter who's right, it matters what's right. Because we're working for both of us. Do you understand what I'm saying? So many people I just want to be right because of that ego.
Right,
No,
right.
Let's do what's right. It's not about you knowing more than me or me knowing more than you. We're trying to get this thing together. We're in this thing together. So that's also a lesson that I have learned through the years. But we're still good friends today. We're still good friends.
Now, how long were you guys married?
We were married, I guess, around 7 years, something like that.
Okay. And so then,
now, how many of them were happy? I mean, like, it started out good, obviously. When did it start to become an issue?
I guess maybe about 2 years later.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Once he started getting out there traveling and stuff.
Normally in a relationship, it takes about that time.
Okay.
Because takes about a year really for the love phase, the honeymoon phase to kind of wear off.
Right.
We've gotten used to each other. Right. And then within that second year, you start to actually see more and more of the person and the traits that you didn't see before.
Exactly.
And then that's the time that you say, wait a minute, who is this? And I didn't know that about you, and I didn't know you did this. And
that's right.
It's different when you sleeping in the same house, waking up every day, going to sleep every day. Yeah, you find out a whole lot about someone.
Or the things that didn't bother you now begin to bother you.
Right.
Yes.
He leaves his clothes on the floor, whereas before, the honeymoon phase, it was cute. I'll pick it up. I'll wash. I'll clean. Then it gets to a point where it starts, gets annoying.
Now, don't be looking over here at me now. Come on.
So then how about, so then you married again?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And he was an entertainer as well, because see, I was out there. I was an entertainer. So that's basically was the common denominator from my first marriage and my second.
I don't know if that sounds good. I was out there. She said, I was out there. I don't know if that sounds good.
I'm talking about an entertainment field. When I said I was out there, I worked law enforcement. I said, when I worked the streets, they said, Carlotta, that doesn't sound good.
Right. So you were out there and you worked the streets.
Yeah. Well, when I was out there in the entertainment field, that's basically who I dealt with.
You're around, right?
Yeah. And my second husband, he was a very good guy. He bought me my first house for me and my children. He was a musician. He played with a lot of different entertainers or artists that were very popular. So he and I got along. But you guys, I said, I'm gonna be truthful. He and I got along real well. But once I started working for the city, because I stopped traveling because of my children. When I started working for the city, and he was an excellent stepfather. You have to analyze yourself too, because it's not all a man's fault all the time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's absolutely true.
Or it's not a gender particular. Sometimes we don't have to say male. Sometimes it's not always the other person. It could be us.
Yeah, that's right.
Whether we're male or female, right?
That's right. So when he and I were together, a little bit about my background, I was raised in church anyway. But I saw so much stuff I didn't like. I said, when I get grown and get out of here, I'm not going back to church. And I
Mhm.
didn't. For 10 years, I didn't go back to church.
And
But
sometimes, and I hate to interrupt you, sometimes
that's
it all
okay.
depends on the church, because I hear that a lot. I
Yeah.
guess it depends on the church and
Well,
the culture of the church and what it's really
Yes.
teaching.
Well,
right,
it
but
was
it
a Baptist
deprives
church.
you of so many different things too, because it's like it's either we're gonna do the church because we can't do circular stuff. So it's
Yes.
just like it's church, 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 church. If you
True.
had a balanced type of life, you could say we can go to church and we
Amen.
can do this. Yeah.
JCI and churches like Christ Universal Temple. That's why I like those type of churches, because there's a balance.
Mhm.
So anyway, I stopped going to church, and then my husband came to me, and he was kind of dibbling up into New Thought. He came to me and said, Carlotta, let's start going to church. I said, I don't want to go to church. You wouldn't think that about me now, because when I tell people that about me now, they say, we can't believe you were ever like that. But anyway, because I'm just real. I don't like that hypocrisy stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, anyway, so I said, no. See, he was trying to do, he was trying to do a good thing, but I didn't. So then when I started working for the city, I got kind of beyond myself. I saw all these guys in suits and ties, and they were intelligent, and and they hitting on me, and but then I should not have started looking at him differently. I kind of grew from him.
Okay.
And sometimes I do feel that maybe I shouldn't have done that, because he really loved me. And I feel that if I had to do it all over again, I would have been a better, I'm not saying I wasn't a good wife, I was a good wife, but I would have been more into agreeing, yes, let's do this together. You understand?
Yeah.
But
Or but again, I think it goes back to the past. It goes back to the past experiences. And
Yeah.
so now you're young, you got out of one relationship, and you're
Mhm.
still really in the time of your life. You're still pretty young. And what we do sometimes is we look at something else and
Yeah.
want it instead of actually looking at
Appreciating what's in front of us.
appreciating what's in
That's
front
true.
of us.
That's true.
And,
That's true.
and we can't beat ourselves up over it, but we can learn from it.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right?
And go ahead. Oh,
No, I was just gonna say, and I think that's part of the problem is that lots of times in relationships, sometimes it can be one-sided. You have one
Yeah.
person who loves the other person more, and so sometimes we'll get used or
Well, yeah,
kind of
taken advantage of,
taken
in a
advantage
sense,
of.
yeah.
yeah. Uh-huh.
You
And-
took his kindness and his love for kind of a weakness, and you were kind of
Take-
self,
right.
all about you.
Yeah. And I did appreciate him, because, like I said, I had a stepfather. And I said, if my kids ever have a stepfather, he is going to be a good stepfather. Not to
Okay.
say my stepfather was mean, but it was things that I didn't appreciate about him. And I said, whomever I get, he's going to love my kids and do right by my children. And that's what I did. I remember my husband, that husband, we're talking about the musician. I remember him telling me, he said, you treat your kids like your man and your man like your child.
Oh.
And I said, wow, okay. Because I wanted to make sure my kids were loved. I wasn't going to have anybody mistreat my kids. So anyway,
And
but
I think that happens in a lot of relationships, though.
Yeah.
When
Okay.
when you have children, and then
Uh-huh.
you get married again, they tend to put so much love and care into the child and neglect the new mate. In a
exactly.
sense, well, the new mate feels like he's being
Right,
neglected.
Or he
right,
feels like he has something to prove, and so therefore,
Right, he's competing
right.
against the children.
Yeah.
right. So he and I did have one child, though, and my second husband and we had one child, and he's a good boy, but there's no buts to it. I just felt that I should have had more patience, because he was a good man. I felt like I should have had more patience, so I really do blame myself for that. But he and I broke up, but then while we broke it, he died. He died from cancer because he smoked. And his friends, because he went back to New Orleans, and his friends told me, he said, because he got married again, and he told me, he said, you're the only woman that I feel like he was married to, because he always talked about you. And that really did hurt me. And soon I went to see him, and after he had died, then I left and went back home. But he died a week after I left. So he really loved me. He really, really did. So he was a good man.
But you loved him as well. I mean, it wasn't.
Oh, yeah,
it
I
wasn't,
did.
yeah.
When
Yeah,
I
it wasn't
first
watching.
met him, he was a musician. And like I told you, I was a singer. And he was up on stage. And I said, who is that 5 men up there? and he was going with another girl too. And so my girlfriend, she said, I didn't even ask her to do it. She just did it. And she said, my girlfriend likes you, And so he came in, we started talking, and he used to hang out with Bobby Day and all of them. These are old time musicians, popular people. That's how we met. And I thought he was the finest thing. He kind of looked like, what's this guy's name? WKRP. What is his name? I forgot.
Oh, Tim Reed.
Tim Reed. Yeah.
Yeah.
He got to look like Tim Reed. Yeah.
That's one show I used to watch with.
Yeah.
I didn't watch many.
Yeah.
So what?
Well, let me say this. Let me say this one thing. Hold on that thought. Now, Carlotta, is it true that you was a backup singer for Ike and Tina Turner?
Yeah, for a while. Mm-hmm. But I was on the road with Dick Clark, and I was on the road with Dick Clark as an Ike. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So
we're going to come. We have to bring you back and talk about Ike and Tina Turner.
Find out. She was just a backup singer.
You saw a lot.
Yeah, I did. I saw a lot. People used to think I was Tina's sister back in the day. I said no, because see, my name was Turner as well back in the day.
Oh, okay.
They thought we were sisters, but I got some stories about that.
Yeah.
The first, she didn't like me that well. She didn't like me that well. But then after she got to know me, she confided in me. She was really nice to me after she got to me.
Good. Well, I guess you have to understand, as a performer, I think she was probably just, we thought she didn't like you,
right?
But she probably didn't know you.
She was in a volatile relationship.
That could have been true.
And she's trying to control her and her husband, so she might have had a lot on her plate.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Sometimes we, again, self-absorbed. We're like, well, she doesn't really like us, and sometimes it's not even that issue. It's just the fact that they have a lot going on in their lives.
That's true.
And people come and go.
Nice to me once she got to know me. And, we got along real well. Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
What did you learn from your first and second marriage that took you into the next relationship? Were you married again?
Yes, I was. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So third time is a charm.
Right.
Okay. So what did you lead us into meeting the third husband, the baggage from the first and the second husband, the emotions, the feelings, and the lessons that were learned as you went into that third marriage?
When I went to the third marriage, I kind of knew more so what I wanted.
Okay.
Being young and I was an entertainer, I just gravitated to entertainers, just was in that world. And also, my third husband, he was a little older than me. He was 12 years older than me. He thought he could control me. I taught him some lessons too. We got along real well. We were like really best friends. So he and I broke up for about a year, but we went back together. And people would say, one of my girlfriends said, I never seen a couple broke up and every time you turn around, you guys are together, So, but we went back together. But if he had problems, he would call me. He said, I know we're supposed to be mad at each other, but I want to ask you this question. And it'd be something about life or his job or whatever. But he and I stayed together 20 years. But I think each marriage that I had, I learned something from them. And even though he was not an entertainer, the first two were entertainers. My first husband, he was a singer, and he sang with the Coasters at one time. I'm dating myself. And then my second husband, he did some things with Dr. Johnny Watson. After years of being with those two, I learned something as well. I'm talking about my first two husbands.
And what did you learn?
I learned to be more flexible. I learned that life is not perfect. To talk to a man and treat a man, even though I guess I was doing okay, to tell you truthfully, most of the guys, I left them. They didn't need me. But I learned something about myself in those relationships. Not to just get into a relationship. Really have counseling. I mean this. You should really have counseling before you get into a relationship, because that way you can find out whether or not you guys are really on the same page, or is this just a physical attraction?
Okay.
Yeah. So, because sometimes it could be just a physical attraction, but when you really get to know that person, that's not where you're going in life. That's what I learned for the third one. But the third one, he was a little older than me, where the other ones were maybe about 4 or 5 years old. But in that relationship, we had some challenges too, because he thought he could really control me in the way and do the things he wanted me to do. and not to say that they were bad. Like he wanted me all to himself. He didn't want me,
Okay.
but I had
But
to.
I don't think that's control. I think that's just men. If we can be honest, I think that's just
Okay.
men.
Yeah, because I got a little bit of that in myself, so
Yes.
I don't
So-
see that being a problem.
Okay.
And we say that, right? We say, well, why do you have me? Why do I need to just be here with you and can't do anything else? You know, so
Yeah.
I don't think that's control, but I understand what you're saying. What else did you learn? So you were saying,
I just learned to look at both sides and to try to understand them. You know, understand my husband. Try to understand whom I was, because there are two sides. It's just not about me. Before then, I was just really into my children. So if a man like I think I said this before, like my husband told me, he said, he said, you treat your kids like your husband and your man like your child,
so which husband told you that?
My second husband.
Okay, the one that you were neglecting.
Yes, the one I was.
Yeah.
So can we say from your first marriage that you learned that you weren't going to be used? So when you went into your second marriage, you said, okay, I'm not going to be used, and I'm going to get somebody who pretty much, maybe subconsciously, that I can use. So I'm not going to be the person who's getting played on. I'm going to be the person who's doing the playing.
Well, not so much the playing as the controlling.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So you want to control the situation or control the relationship.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's what I'm saying. So the first marriage, you learned something from it, and you said, okay, this is not going to happen. So you go into the second relationship, and then that doesn't happen. You make sure that doesn't happen. But what did happen is that you weren't flexible with him. So then you took that and you moved that into the third husband. So you said, okay, well, I wasn't real flexible with my second husband.
Exactly.
So I'm not going to be like this in this third marriage. So do you see how our history and our baggage and what we think is the controlling factor in one relationship, we take it into another relationship.
That's right.
Yes.
So if we can kind of go ahead.
And the thing about me, as I think back, with each marriage, I stayed longer.
Right.
And I feel that because of the fact that I learned something from each marriage. My second husband really loved me. He really did.
I'm just gonna say, so your first husband didn't love you and your third husband didn't really love you?
I feel that.
So now we know there's levels to love.
I'm gonna tell you something. I feel that the reason that's a good
Come on.
question.
Let's get to the truth. What is it?
That's a good question. I feel like my first husband loved me when he loved me. But then,
Okay.
I do. I feel like all of them loved me when they loved me. And my first husband, we were kids. I feel he loved me. I did. I do. I feel he loved me. He still loves me now. He had tried to ask me to go back with him. I said no, because I know who he is. Even after my last husband died, and I said no. I said, and I said, you like my brother. He thought that was so funny.
That might not be love. That might be comfortability. He's just comfortable with you.
He needs somebody to be with him now
and
in
he
his
knows
later years.
what you did or what you will do, and so maybe he needs men get older. They need that companionship.
Yep.
Yes, that's good. That's good. Yes.
Okay, but we're going back. You were answering the question. I don't want to change your train of thought. You said so they all loved me, but go ahead. So you were talking about that.
They all love me, but I think the one now maybe I shouldn't say this, but the first one was a Cancer and the last one was a Cancer. Seemed like the cancers are attracted to me. And the middle one, he was a Scorpio. Okay.
Zodiac signs.
Yeah, zodiac sign. So it might be just personality. That's what I'm trying to say. But the one in the middle that was a Scorpio, he was just more loving to me. He was just more loving.
I'm just going to break down this loving. Do you think he loved you more because he allowed you to get away with stuff that the other ones didn't? See, I think we can confuse, and it may not be. See, love, you're thinking, well, he really loved me because I did this and he stayed.
He gave you so much.
And he really loved me because I talked to him this way and he stayed. So, but again, it may not have been love. It could have been something else that was in his past that he was used to being treated that way. Right. So because you say he really loved me, and that's the only one you say, he really loved me. He may have loved you just as much as the other ones did, but his actions made you think that he must have loved you more because he put up with your stuff. If we can
Yeah.
say that, I think.
But I think too, he really loved me because he was accepting to my children and treated his children. I mean, treated my children because he didn't have any children except the one we had together. And he treated my children like his children. He really did. And so
That's just the qualities of a man, though.
A real man.
Right. That's
Yeah.
the
real
qualities of a
man.
man.
Right,
So
right.
how does that demonstrate to you that he really loved you because he was a father to your kids?
He was a father to my kids. He bought my first house for me, and he was down with me. He was down with me, and that's why I appreciated him so much. But I was the one that was
Messing up.
messing up.
But if you think about it, you were messing up because of what happened in your
your
first
first marriage.
relationship, right?
Yes.
Your first marriage.
Yes,
Right.
yes. That's all. No, I'm not gonna go for this no more.
Right.
Right.
And
And
so
then maybe your last relationship lasted so long because you said, I'm not going to be this way with this husband like I was with the second husband.
exactly.
And sometimes we really have to find ourselves who we
Yes.
are in the midst of looking at other people and other relationships. And so many times we bring baggage and we don't see how that baggage of past relationships really intertwine and mess with the relationship that we have currently, or
Right.
how it plays a part.
True. I agree with that. So my third husband, he was funny, had more experience. He
Okay.
taught me a lot.
Okay.
Now, I'm not gonna say he was my father. No, I'm not gonna say that.
Right. Right.
I'm not gonna say that. But he just had a lot of class about himself, and I like that.
Okay.
Okay.
He wasn't a musician, or I'm not saying that musicians don't have class, but he wasn't a musician, but he had a lot of class about himself, and he was very smart. And I like smart men. I like intelligent men.
Okay.
But I don't like men that are controlling.
And there is a difference, right?
Right.
Some people
Yes.
think because they're smart that they're supposed to dominate
The
because-
relationship.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Uh-huh.
So that I understand when you say that exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So my last husband, I feel he and I were more compatible. I do. As far as
Okay.
our thinking, I feel he was more. So now, being that I'm a widow now it's kind of hard for me to digress, to go back
Right.
Yeah.
to
Right.
elementary stuff. So, but my second husband told me one time, he said, Carlotta, you always trying to reach for the moon. And my attitude was, if I reach for the moon, maybe I'll get a star.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's just how I am. I always want to make things better. You're always trying to make things better because that's just life. I get bored. So that's what I had to learn about myself.
Okay.
What was going on with me, because this is just how I was created.
Right.
That
Mhm,
I'm
right.
always trying to make things better. And it doesn't. If you want to come on.
Right.
None of them were abusive to me. When I say abusive, like slapping me around. Now, my last husband, he can kind of be verbal abusive sometimes.
Okay.
Okay.
He had this he's from the East Coast, so he's kind of perky.
Hmm. Yeah.
I remember one time he was saying something, and I said, you know what? He's not getting away with this today. Now somebody's gonna fight tonight because I'm not taking this. Now he never called me out my name. He didn't want anybody around. I mean, not even my friends. And he was very possessive. And I'm standing 5'2" at the time. He's 6'4", but he never did give me any indication that he was going to try to fight me or anything. But you know what? I shouldn't say train. I'm not going to use the word train. I was able to display to him that's not the way to be.
That's
You know,
right.
You were right, and I like what you said, train, because it's funny. I was talking to someone, and they were like, "Well, you have to train your husband." And it's not. We won't use the word train, but we
Have to
do
show
have
them.
to show them
Yeah.
right, exactly.
what we deserve, what we don't
Exactly.
deserve, what is allowable and what's
That's
not
right.
allowable,
That's
and
right.
that's both ways.
Right. And I
That's
think
to
you
the
should
woman
teach.
as well as the man.
Yeah. You teach
That's
them
right.
how to treat you.
Right.
That's right. Now, my father, like I told you guys, I'm very candid. My father was very abusive. So it was in my psyche
Mhm.
not to have an abusive man.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Right.
I've never had I was talking to a girlfriend of mine, she's a professor, And she said, seems like you had some good men. And I have. I've had some
Mhm.
good men. I just needed to grow up and knew who I was,
Right.
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 choose correctly. So I'm not really bashing them because I had my faults too, because I just didn't know.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
I
You
just
didn't
Well,
didn't
you
know.
were learning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you were learning.
And then
Uh-huh.
you were learning from the past of what, like you said, your father, what you didn't want, the church, what you didn't want.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
we oftentimes, like I said, we may not know exactly what we want, and this
Right.
is so many times the case. We
That's
don't
true.
know what we want, but we know what we don't want.
Don't want.
Right.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, we can express that with no problem.
But it's so.
Right.
But the thing is, there's so many variations of what we do want. So I don't
Exactly.
want this, but we keep that box closed as to what we should be attracting to us because we're
Yes.
so focused on what we don't want
Right.
that we're not
Yes.
really realizing that we should be focusing on the things
And
that
that's
we
so
do
true.
want.
Tina, that is an excellent point. Focus on what we do want. And I think that goes back to our teaching.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Goes back to that because we have concentrated on so much of what we don't want.
Don't want.
If we
Mhm.
kind of concentrate more on what we do want, we can manifest that more into our lives and draw
Right.
that more into our lives. So that's a very good point.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
so
because
many-
like they say, what you think about, you bring about. Because if you're thinking about all the things you don't want, those things keep showing up in your
Correct.
relationship anyway.
Correct. The one that I was with 20 years, he's the one that introduced me to New Thought.
Okay.
Yeah,
So how did he do that? Because the second
Yeah,
one,
because you was dead set against religion.
yeah.
I know. No, wait a minute. I've always believed in God, so I'll get that straight.
Okay, yeah, no. I mean, like going to church. I'll say that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How that happened when he and I met, I was in a full gospel church at the time.
Okay.
So we were talking, and he said, Carlotta, he said, you sound like one of us. And so I said, well, what is that? And he said some of the things I had said. He said, why don't you come to my church and see how you like it? And when I got there, I cried. I said, this is what I've been looking for.
Oh,
So he and I got along real well. We really, really did. We was like really best friends. We could talk about anything. My last husband, I had to learn from those last two. Well, this time when I go into this relationship, Carlotta, what did you do wrong last time? And what are you not going to accept and what are you going to accept? Now, I'm going to tell you this secret. And I know it's not a secret, but it is a secret.
Right. It's not a secret. It's not a secret, but it is a secret because everybody doesn't know it, right? That's what makes it a secret.
Exactly. My father was very abusive to my mom. That's who he was. And I said, I'll never have a man to hit on me, But my mother, when I was 12 years old, I jumped out of the bed and I said, I can't take this anymore. And that's what made my mother leave him. So by that happening, I was aware of abusive relationships.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
I said that I would never get a man to hit on me. And I haven't.
Okay.
But I was not aware of verbal abuse. One time, something that happened, and I went to a psychologist. She said, well, you're not crazy, and she didn't say crazy. She said, well, you don't need me. You really need to speak with a sociologist. And they the one that introduced me. I said, oh, verbal abuse. I didn't know that was a science. I didn't, because, and I read a book on it, and it let me know how it creeps up on you. One thing that I really admired about my last husband, well, all my husbands really, we could talk about anything.
So
And
you
that's
guys had a good friendship.
Yeah, we all had with all my husbands, I had a good friendship with them. Even after we had broken up, they would still call me because we would talk about different things, and we still had a good friendship.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's
So
what a
with
relationship is built on.
So as Jason asked for the first husband, now let's go back to the last husband.
Okay.
How many of those 20 years were happy? And then at what point, let's carry us through those 20 years and the shifts and the changes that helped you make it to 20 years, which means, there's shifts and changes as we
Correct.
progress through marriage.
Okay. When we first got together, he's the one that introduced me to New Thought. And like I said, he would tell me, the way you talk, you ought to come to my church and see how we was in Church of Religious Science. And I said, okay. And like I said, I cried. I said, what do you mean people really believe the way I believe? Even though I had been in a Pentecostal church. But anyway, how our relationship evolved. We really got along well. He and I, we really got along well because to me, he had good sense. You know what I'm saying?
But that, you know what? That's funny, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, he had good sense to me. And I think because I had children, certain men didn't want to deal with me because they felt like they couldn't progress or whatever, but that might hold them back. But I had a lot of guy friends that they wanted to be with me, but I'm saying if you don't care about me enough to I didn't
accept my kids.
Yeah, exactly. If you didn't want to accept my kids, and he almost didn't want to, but he knew he had to. But my kids were grown too, about almost grown. They were almost grown. So anyway, and New Thought just made sense to me. He and we started off really good, and I enjoyed his company, and he enjoyed mine. And then when we did run into us there, I don't never remember him messing around on me. He didn't mess around on me, and that was a good thing. Well, actually, in my all three of my marriages, the first one was the only one really messed around on me, because when I learn a lesson, I take heed to it. I do it. I examine why it happened, and so. But my second husband didn't mess around on me. It was just my first one, and we were young, so I'm not mad at him. I'm not mad at him. That's just who he was and who I was at the time. But the second one and the third one, they were good. And so anyway, for the 20 years he and I were together, we did break up, like I said, one time because I told him I don't like the way you talk to me. And he didn't understand that. I'm not beating you. I'm not doing this to you. I'm not messing around. I said, yeah, but I don't like the way you talk to me. And so he said he didn't understand that.
And what point and how long had you been married when you finally had that revelation? Wait a minute, I don't like this talk. so how long have you been?
Now, truthfully, I'm gonna tell you, it was maybe about 4 or 5 years.
Right. See how long it takes.
Yeah.
So we meet them. Yeah, we meet them, we love them, we deal with it, we deal with it. And like I said, from that second year on up, it's like, okay, second year, you start seeing one thing. Third year, it's another thing. By that fourth year, you like, wait a minute. Hold on. Like, something has to change, or this is not going to make it. And I say that because people don't realize that marriage does not stay the same.
No, it evolves.
Marriage is just like people. I don't know why people assume that. It's just like clothes. You can't wear the same clothes that you wore when you were in 12th grade, right? Yeah, we can't think our relationship is going to stay the same as it was day one. As we grow, they grow, our interactions, our choices, all of that play a part, everything that we do.
Yeah.
So you said, wait a minute, hold up.
Now you're going to put your foot down.
I know. That's what I had to do. I really did. And guess what? He's standing 6'4.5", right? And here I am down here. And so I turned, he looked like, whoa, okay. I remember when we first met, he would leave me at his house. He said, now don't answer my phone. I said, okay. And I said, okay, because he was like a ladies' man. He really was. And I said, okay, I'm giving you 3 months to get rid of these women.
So when you leave me, I'm answering calls after 3
months.
That's
right. And I did it. So after the 3 months, I answered the phone. He called, because I guess we were working different shifts or whatever. He called, and I answered the phone like on the second ring. I said, hello? You answering my phone? I said, yes, I am. I told you after 3 months. He said, okay. And then he went on to his conversation.
So we got to lay that. We got to set the ground rules.
That's right. That's right. But he was a good guy. He really was. I'm going to tell you, I feel that all my husbands, they were good guys. They really were. I didn't choose anybody that was like I say, they kind of try to get verbally abusive. But as a whole, they were pretty good guys. They really, really were. So
back on that.
But you had to learn about verbal abuse. You didn't even realize that was even a thing.
I didn't realize it. I went to, what happened was I was at work. I worked in law enforcement. Mm-hmm. So one day I was in roll call, and I said, I'm talking to one officer. And then I said, I'll just say Jones. I was talking to Jones. I said, Jones, I want you to do this today. Yada, yada, yada. I was holding roll call. And then so this other guy was looking at him, and I said, Smith, did you hear what I said? And he said, do you want to talk to me? He was talking to Jones. I said, oh, I got a problem here. And that's because I was overloaded. So I went to a psychologist, and she told me that I was just overloaded. So that's when I learned about verbal abuse and all of that. And I didn't realize that I was going through this, because I've always been a strong one. I can handle it.
That's a good cue too. I'm glad that. What made you make the decision to go
Made me the decision to go
to the psychologist?
To the psychologist.
Like, what are the signs? Because some of us, we say, "Oh, well, I just made a mistake," and we shake it off. Like, what?
No. Because I mean, when I was giving roll call, I was deeply into talking to him, and then I just switched over to him. That meant I was overloaded. So I'm handling all of these squads, but when I did that, it was like something's wrong.
Okay.
Something's wrong. So that's why I went to the psychologist to find out. And she said, well, do you feel like killing yourself? I said, oh, no, I don't feel like killing myself. I just want to know what's going on. She told me I was overloaded.
It's amazing how the mind can switch us. It's trying to help you. It's giving you signs. You don't realize it. Then you start doing things, but the mind is also protecting us. So I'm going to strike out over here or over there, because sometimes in relationships, it's not, like you said, it's not him or me or us.
Yes.
It could be that the relationship is, our work is too much, which is having a negative effect on our relationship.
Yes.
And if we're not taking care of ourselves, then we come home and we exploit that onto our mate. We explode. We're all over the place, and we're not understanding why this relationship isn't working.
Exactly. And they showed a diagram in the class that when you put a lot of bricks on top of a truck, they had little blocks, things start falling off. And they said that's where our mind is. So we don't realize that though. But anyway, all three of my husbands, we were good friends. I know better now. I think I would have stayed with my second husband, but it wasn't meant to be. Like I said, I would have never gotten New Thought if I had not gone to my third husband.
You have to grow. He came for a season. He came into your life for a need that you needed at that time, and then you moved on.
Because there was a lot of things. There were a lot of things in the other religions that I totally didn't agree with. I said, no, that was like, but when I got into New Thought, like we're doing, I said, this makes sense to me. So not to say the other ones don't make sense, but this made sense for me.
Right. It resonated with your soul.
It resonated with my soul. And so, and I'm so glad I did. And I know we're not here to talk about religion, but I'm so glad, that I did.
Actually, do you think that getting into New Thought helped your marriage to last from 4 years to 20 years?
Oh, yes.
So you said you hate to talk about religion, but
I think that's what gave you longevity in your marriage.
I think so many times people don't realize that you need a common denominator. You need somebody. You need someone who's not going to take sides.
That's
you need someone or something that's going to give you a better understanding than yourself.
Right. In New Thought, I have really grown as far as balance is concerned.
Okay.
And I think it's one of the, well, for me anyway, it's one of the best things that ever happened to me.
And a lot of people like you feel the same way. Anything that can better your life must be better for you. So, Carlotta, I'm going to take you back to that 5th year. So you told him, I don't like the way you're talking to me. Now take us from year 5 to year 10. What went on in the relationship then?
What went on
if you can recall.
I don't know about the timeline, but what went on is, like I said, he would continue to try to kind of control me because he was older than me, But because of who I am, that wasn't happening. But I'm gonna tell you the truth. For a while, he was.
Okay.
He really was. And I one day I stood back and I said, no, this is not gonna go down like this, But I loved him, and I know he loved me. But I'm not saying that we had a power struggle, but we just had to learn because you know what? He was a bachelor for a long time.
But you gotta tell us that. You gotta tell us about the power struggle. We don't want the smoothed overness.
Right, because we know relationships ain't about being smoothed over.
I say that because there are a lot of relationships where one person is 10, 12, 15 years older than the other one.
Right.
And maybe they do come into you started off, whereas it's okay if you want to be controlled, right? So you gave him that indication, okay, I want to be controlled, or whether you realize it or not.
Right.
But now as the relationship grows and you grow and you become more aware, you're like, well, wait a minute. It does create some turmoil, right? You did have some conflict. And so how did you and him come to an understanding to make it better? What did you do with that constant wanting to control or the conflict that you felt you guys were having in the relationship?
Okay, we were compatible in basically everything, but except when it came to my kids.
Okay.
Oh,
He didn't
now
want
that can
my
create a problem right there.
Yeah, it was. He didn't want my kids coming around because he didn't have any kids. He had
Right.
one son, and he didn't want any more. We weren't going to have any, but I'm just saying that's why he only had one son. And so by that happening, it was a struggle because holidays, I want my kids to come over.
Right.
And all that. So I kept telling him, I'm not going for this. I'm going to be fair with you. That was basically our only problem. Really, we got along real well. But basically, that was our only problem. But I got to let him know that you're not going to annihilate my children. No, that's not going to happen. Even though they're grown.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, we know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got news for you. Kids that belong to both of you all, like the husband and the wife create conflict. As they get older, kids.
Yeah, them little things get in the way sometimes.
So you and your husband have a relationship and an understanding, and here your kids come trying to find themselves and they messing up your relationship. I understand.
Yeah, you arguing about them.
But I totally understand that but that's an issue too, how to do blended families. That's right. And then you have to draw that line.
I had to draw that line. He and I got along. We were compatible almost in every way. Really, we were.
Yeah.
Now, even though he was not an entertainer, but he was very sophisticated. But he was trying to be controlling of me because he felt like he knew more than what I knew. Well, maybe he did. But I left him. I said, no, I'm not. He said, well, Carlotta, I'm not beating on you. I'm not, messing around on you. Why you leave me? I sound like the way you talk to me. He said, I said, that right, because he thought he could control me by,
Right.
And so anyway, I did leave, but we were still dating. And people used to say, I never see people date and they're going to be broke up, But he and I went back together. And so after that, it was much better because I was gone for maybe about a year, but we were still communicating. But I'm letting him know I'm serious. I'm not doing you wrong, and I'm not going to allow you to do me wrong. So
my kids are important to me, right?
Exactly. And I'm not going to let my kids rule our household, even though they didn't stay with us. Let that control our relationship, but you're not going to just annihilate me from my children, because he was like that.
Right.
So he learned some lessons from me, and I learned some lessons from him, because maybe I did give my kids too much growing up, And but anyway, I found out after they get a certain age, my husband really is supposed to come first. But by that not being his children, he didn't have that same affection for my children. But he wasn't that kind of person anyway. I mean, when I say not that kind, he was a very loving person toward me, but not when it came to the family unit.
Right.
Yeah.
But
your second husband was more of a family man.
Yes, he was.
Okay.
But it's funny you say that, because then it brings me to a point where when women or men get into a relationship and they know the type of person that they're dealing with, and then when you get with them, you expect them to change.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, because you knew from beginning he was not very fond of kids being around. Right. So then you accepted that.
I did.
We often date someone that maybe smokes or drinks. And it's okay. We know it. It's okay in the beginning. Then we think, okay, well, when we get married, this is going to change.
Yeah.
So you created the turmoil in your marriage. So we can, like you said, if we can take accountability for what we did, picking a mate, regardless of him being very kind and very handsome and very intelligent, the main thing in your life, he was not willing to participate in. But yet you chose him anyway.
Yeah. And one of the reasons, because it might have to do something with loneliness, but not really, because I was always busy. And the reason I say that, because my kids were doing their thing. They were all married and doing their thing. You know what I'm saying?
But you knew he wasn't a family man like that. Like you said, when the holidays rolled around, you like, I want my kids over. He's like, why do they have to come over?
Exactly. No, exactly. You're right.
But you knew that going in.
Yeah, but then leading up to the holidays, you started to get this uneasy feeling about yourself because you want to plan this. You want your kids to come over, but you can't because he's unhappy with that. So you have this.
What happened, by my kids being married, some of them were married, and by them being married, what I would do was have them to come over in the morning. I would do brunch on a holiday, and it kind of helped me too, because after that, then they would go to their
in-laws. Right.
Yeah. So it worked out.
Okay.
But sometimes it didn't work out, but most times it did.
So when they would come over, you were the one basically entertaining them, though, right?
Exactly.
He was
Yeah.
he was off watching TV or
Yeah,
doing his own
watch
thing.
the game.
Yeah.
And so you made it work, but you really weren't happy with the situation.
No, I wasn't.
You
Yeah.
wish that he would partake in
The
being-
family time.
Right.
Right. Engaging with the kids and the other family members. Yes.
Right.
So
So,
go
so
ahead.
that's why I'm single now, and I have some guy friends, but I'm not as I'm very particular, more particular
Sure.
because he's been
I don't want to say particular. I would say you're more aware.
yeah,
More aware. You know,
More
you
aware
know-
of more
right.
aware of herself.
But like you
Yes,
said,
yes.
of what you don't want.
exactly,
Exactly. So we grow, and then we realize the things that did not work for us in the past, and how we're not going to repeat that lesson, right? You said you learned
exactly,
Right.
exactly, and you learn from each
Experience and relationship.
Exactly, you learn what I will accept and what I won't accept. And I
Mhm.
know, and in a marriage, I find too, it's a lot of compromising. So you just decide within yourself, I can deal with this, but I'm not going to deal with this.
right.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Unless you change my mind about it to show me how I'm wrong, and then I'm willing. And I think in a marriage too, that you should not be competing against each other. You got this many brownie points there. No, it's not about that. It's about trying to make it work. Trying to make this life work, this thing called life work. That's what it's about.
Right. For both of you all.
For both of you. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For both of you. So he and I did go back together, and it was better. But you know what? Then he ended up dying. Yeah, he ended up dying. So I've had relationships since then. But, I don't think I've had a relationship as strong, but maybe 5 or 6 years or whatever. Because he's been gone for 19 years,
Oh,
But I
Okay.
have
Okay.
relationships. I've had other relationships, but and some good ones, But you know what, you guys, I have learned. You're always learning.
Yes.
You
Yes.
never really just arrive. You're
No.
always learning.
As long as you're
Hey,
living, you're learning.
And you're willing to learn. That's the other thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
Willing
that
to
makes
learn and
life-
change.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes life interesting to me, though. When I'm learning, oh, I didn't know this existed. Oh, I didn't know that it would happen. And I know at my age, sometimes people don't want to, what do you call it, change.
Right.
They don't want to change. It's gonna be
I've
hard.
always done it this way, and I'm going to continue to do it this way. Right. But it's
Exactly.
going to keep you with that attitude. It's going to keep you exactly where you are.
Exactly. But for me, I enjoy learning. That's why I'm still in class with you guys and
Mhm.
others. I enjoy learning. I enjoy hearing other people's story because I feel like all of this helps me to be a better person, helps me to be able to live with myself even better,
Right.
help me to understand someone else, because it's just not all about me in this thing called life, So,
Right. And it's not. And a lot of people going through some of the same things. I mean, like, you're
Yeah.
not the only person that got cheated on, right?
Right.
You're not
Right.
the only person that had a significant other that was
Abusive.
into the family life, and maybe you
Yes.
weren't so much at that time. And then, I mean, everyone have these different experiences. People are going
Yeah.
through a lot of the same things that you've gone through.
yes, and a lot of times, we all have these bougie friends, and they want to act like everything's perfect. And I'm not saying go around advertising all your business, but just be truthful with yourself
Right.
about what's going on, so you can make it better. You don't have to continue to live in that kind of situation.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But like I said, you have to know who you are.
You have to
have
know
to know
who
what
you
you
are.
like and embrace yourself.
Right. You do, and
Right.
and know who you, like you said, know who you are.
Yeah, that's the most important
Know
thing.
who you are. You know where you're coming from. Know where
Mhm.
your heart is coming from.
So what are we looking to the future? Are we looking for husband number
Number
4
4.
from the knowledge that you have gained
Mhm.
through the years, and even now that you're dating? Are you looking that, okay, I know that I want to get married again, and these are the qualities that I want, or this is the things that I'm going to accept? Or are you thinking that at this point in time, I don't know what I want. I don't know if I want to get married. I don't know if I want to be in a serious relationship. So where are you at right now, and what do you look to the future?
Right now, I'm content. I have some guy friends. No, I have some guy friends. And if I found that someone that I felt that we could really have happiness and enjoy each other's company, and we're on the same page, I don't have to get up and cook every day because I'm through with that.
So basically, really, you just like it feels good having comfort, not to have to be anybody else, right? You like the companionship when you want it, right?
Kinda. It kind of like that. Kinda like that. But for me, and maybe because I'm a woman, for me, I do like that strongness next to me. You
Okay.
know what I'm saying? I do.
Yeah.
I like that strongness. But I don't want anyone that is trying to control me to the point where I'm miserable.
Right,
You know what
right.
For
I'm
the
saying?
sake of having that strongness next to you.
No,
Yeah.
because I'm handling it. You know what I mean? As far as
Yeah.
my business and what I need to do. But my kids are grown, and by them being grown, they do their thing. They don't include me in everything, and I don't want to be included in everything they're doing. Now, I'm not gonna say I'm content being single, but I have learned I'd rather be by myself than to be with somebody who's making me miserable.
Okay.
And I'll tell you that for sure.
Yeah.
I'd
And you
rather
shouldn't be with it. And you shouldn't
But
be
you
with
do,
anybody that
but
make you
but
miserable.
you do know that you can be with somebody and be happy, right?
Of
Oh
course.
yeah,
Okay.
I do feel that way, but
Yeah.
but you know what? It has made me listen to this, you guys. At my age, it has made me more particular. Now, you would think that I would be more particular when I was younger, but I'm more particular now. I see some things. I said, I'm not putting up with that, But I mean things that, But anyway.
And don't start anything in a relationship you don't
Don't
plan
want
on
to
keeping
keep it
up.
up with.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Exactly.
So if you know
Exactly.
you don't want to cook every day, and you get
That's
to
what
a
I'm
Don't
talking
even
relationship,
start it.
you get into a
That's
relationship,
what
say,
I'm
hey,
talking
look, let me tell you. Now, if you looking for somebody who's gonna cook every day, then you got the wrong one.
Wrong
That's
one.
right. That's right. Because I don't feel like it. That is
Exactly.
fine right now.
And what that says is that we have to have honesty in relationships.
Yeah. Now, at my age, I do meet younger guys, and I let them know because I have children, and my
Mhm.
children are up there. I
Uh-huh.
don't want nobody around my child's age.
Right.
I want somebody that's in my category. I don't want. I had met this guy one time, and he wanted to go out almost every night. I said, "Now that's it. I'm tired." You know what I'm saying? I've learned to be true to myself. That's the point.
Yes,
Right.
I've
yes.
learned to be
Right.
true to myself. So, but I don't want nobody. I don't want to be with someone that does not have any kind of ambition either. And what I mean by ambition, I'm not talking about building the city or nothing like that. That don't want to keep living. I want to keep living. I always tell people, I want to keep living until I die.
That's
There you
right.
go.
That's right.
That's right.
I
Keep
totally
living until I
understand.
die. I'm
That's
not
right.
going to
Right.
sit in
Just
the corner and just wait to die and me. Oh no, forget that.
You know, that's funny. I was talking with Jason and I was like, there's certain people that we know that are doing that. They're
Yeah.
content in
Content.
their life, and
It's
I'm not
just
judging,
right.
but it
Right,
seems as though they're not aspiring for more. They
right,
just
exactly.
they just walking around until one day they die.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Right.
And that's boring to me, really.
To me too. Like
It
if you
is
don't want
boring.
any, I'm like you don't want anything more in your life.
Yeah,
Like
don't you
like
want to
there's
travel?
so much.
Don't you want to do something else? Like,
Yeah.
But
you
there's
know?
such a big world out there. There's
It
so much
is.
to do, and there's so much to learn within yourself, who
Yeah.
you
It
really
is.
are, to grow. I mean, how can you? It just seemed like you just like you said. I totally get what you're saying. You
I
like,
think when you stop learning, you stop living.
I do
Be-
too. I
Yeah,
do
because
too.
if you're not learning anything, you're not doing anything. You're
I
not
do. That's how
progressing.
I feel. That's how I
Yeah.
feel too. When
Yeah.
you stop learning, you stop living.
Yeah.
Because
so as we're winding this down, I just want to know if you could give advice to. I wouldn't put an age on it. So if you
No.
could give advice to someone in regards to relationships and marriage and making them work for
Mhm.
you and the other person, what would that advice be?
the advice would be to be truthful with yourself and who you are, and figure out who you are, so you will not just choose anybody. You would choose someone that is going the same place you're going. It
Mhm.
might be a little different, but you want to know where they're going. What are their aspirations? I think that every couple, before they get married, should have counseling, premarital counseling, because I've heard stories where people say, "Well, I wanted 10 kids." 10? I didn't know you wanted 10. I only want two or whatever. You know,
Right.
to make sure that you're on the first step, because you know what? After the honeymoon is over, life is real.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So you have to just be truthful with yourself, what you really want. And I think mostly to get that premarital counseling and to see if you guys really are on the same page and what you want to do. Well, you guys know, I'm talking to the choir. No marriage is perfect. No marriage. But are we going in the same direction?
And,
So,
and can we work together to get
and
there,
can
right?
we work together to get there? That is it. Not to say that you have to have the same job, but is it compatible?
Right.
Right.
Are we compatible? I may like to cook, but you like being a host. What are my aspirations? Can we coexist together happily? I believe in variety. I do. I believe in experiencing different things. That's what I would basically say with a couple. Where are we going? What is your aspiration? Sometimes we don't know who we are or what we want, but if we pay attention, just choose someone that has aspirations to advance as well and want to make it work. They're not just here for the moment. They have a lifetime goal that they're trying to accomplish. So I think that's one of the things, like when I was younger, and both my husbands, my first two husbands, they were both in the entertainment field. I was an entertainer myself, but guess what? After I got older, I really didn't want to do that life anymore.
Right.
I still sing. I do. I sing around town and all that, but I didn't want that type of life anymore.
Right.
So we're just when you meet someone, what do you want in life? Where do you go? What are you aspiring? Instead of just I like you, you like me, and I like the way you look, and it's not just about that. It's not just about that. I always tell people, everybody get old and ugly. Okay?
Oh, they do. Yeah, my cousin used to tell me that too.
I know, everybody get old and ugly. So, but and that's another point too. If you have a mate, don't take for granted that he's just there. He's not going nowhere because we got this big house or whatever. You want to be happy there in that place.
Yes. You want to grow old happy. I think that's the key.
Yes.
And compatible.
Yeah, and compatible. And that's why it's so important to talk to each other. What do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? We really should talk to each other. It's just not a physical thing, because after so many years, hopefully you still got it going on. I'm talking about physically. What is your heart's desire? So I think that's what's most important. Are we going the same place? Do we want the same things? And I've learned also, sometimes you don't know what you want. It's like step by step by step. And we see different things in life. And I think respecting each other and loving each other, if you respect one another and love each other, I think it could work.
I think so. That's one of the major things right there. Respect, and also having the support of your spouse.
And yes.
And if you can support each other, that'll take your relationship a long way as well. And
I feel that love, I don't mean admiration, I mean love. Love can accomplish that for you. Because, like the scriptures say, love hides a multitude of faults.
Mm-hmm.
And it does if you love. Right. But you want to make sure that you're on the same page. You want the same things in life, So, because some people don't.
Yeah, that's true, and that's why a lot of them don't make it.
That's true.
Yeah, you look good to me, and I look good to you right now.
All right, so that wraps up another episode of Loving Beyond the I Do podcast.
And as always,
we're in it to win it.